You didn't say anything.
I meant yes. My mouth didn't speak.
Jeff Canada, I'm so curious what you think of this film. I think we had both enjoyed The French Dispatch, if I recall correctly, right?
I did very much.
Yeah.
I mean, French Dispatch is a series of short stories, and I think there were ones that I liked more than others. But overall, I thought the movie was fantastic.
Highly enjoyed. I remember having very positive feeling. I don't know if it made my top 10, but it was like up there.
I think if it didn't make my top 10, it definitely made honorable mentions or something because it was one of my favorite movies of 2021.
So Jeff Canada, curious your overall thoughts on Asteroid City.
I like this movie. I think this movie, more than most, comes with a giant asterisk, an asteroid-size asterisk, which is, are you up for Wes Anderson movies? Are you up for Wes Anderson movies? Do you like a Wes Anderson movie? This is a Wes Anderson-ass Wes Anderson movie. It is not for the faint of heart as far as being up for his style. I don't know if there is any filmmaker working today that has a more distinct and structured style than Wes Anderson. His movies are so much so that we see these AI generated, trailers for other movies done in his style. It is very easy to ape his style because it is so specific.
Can we take a little detour actually about that?
Sure.
About that topic. It's been a massive trend on TikTok, people doing Wes Anderson. Have you seen this trend?
Sure.
Where people will use, I think they're using music from Grand Budapest, if I'm not mistaken, and then they'll use kind of Wes Anderson style credits to be like, here's my day in New York as a Wes Anderson movie. And they'll kind of edit it and frame it in a style that they think is similar to Wes Anderson.
Symmetrical sides of the frame, very, very two-dimensional presentation of everything. Camera pans, his style is the color, the look, and even the acting style, which in this movie more than most, I would say, has been imposed on the actors. It is clear he has a very specific desire for how every single line in this movie is to be delivered.
You took a picture of me.
Uh-huh.
Why?
I'm a photographer.
I don't mean this to be offensive in any way, but if a movie could be on the spectrum, this movie is on the spectrum. It is a very staid, emotionless, presentational movie about people who are very high functioning, very literate, very smart, very genius level people, all interacting with each other in very presentational, staid ways. If that style to you seems austere and overly and false and just not grounded in any way, because it isn't, right? He is Bertolt Brecht. He is doing something that is just antithetical to what most people are doing in the medium, right? He's not trying to present a version of naturalistic reality. He is making something very theatrical, very self-aware in its theatricality. I mean, it's very Brechtian. It's pointing out things about the world very specifically. And it is presentational and warped through a lens of film. I happen to love that. I love the fact that there is no one doing what he's doing. And clearly, based on the actors that he's cobbled together for this cast, a lot of people want to work with him because of that, right? He seems to have his pick of the best actors working today, who all are very excited to be in his movies, based on how like the tiniest of roles in this movie is a giant television or movie star. And they all seem to be acting in a very specific Wes Anderson style. They've adopted that. I'm not even giving you any emotion in my words, and my words are all coming out very, very flat. But so I think that could turn off a lot of people. And I think more than any of his previous movies, this movie is that. But I happened to love it. I happen to love the twists and turns, the very, very funny, quirky take on the world, the way this very particular set of circumstances is viewed by a bunch of disparate kinds of characters. How this movie plays in two different realities, the reality of what we're seeing in vivid color and this black and white reality of putting on the presentation of the movie. It's just so different, so unique. It has such a voice to it. I loved it, but I have to understand and have to acknowledge that it is very much not for anybody, even more so than his previous films.
I wanted to just finish that point I was making about the people doing Wes Anderson.
Oh, sorry.
No worries. Sheila asked the question on our Patreon, what do you guys think of the Wes Anderson trend on social media? And Wes Anderson has actually commented on it. He gave an interview with the Times where he says, quote, "I'm very good at protecting myself from seeing all that stuff. If somebody sends me something like that, I'll immediately erase it and say, please, sorry, do not send me things of people doing me. Because I do not want to look at it thinking, is that what I do? Is that what I mean? I don't want to see too much of someone else thinking about what I try to be, because God knows I could then start doing it," end quote. What do I think of the trend? I think like when I saw it the first time, it's like, oh, this is kind of fun and clever. It's like someone, doing an impersonation of Arnold Schwarzenegger or whatever. It's like, oh, you see that the first time, it's like kind of fun. But then like if you see 150 people do an impression of Arnold Schwarzenegger, it feels like it's like not as fun anymore. It feels like it's kind of like,
Yeah.
what are we doing here? And I guess that's kind of how I feel about it. Is like a few scattered people trying to do a trend where they ape someone's style is like, that's completely fine. Those are fun experiments, but it was a massive trend on TikTok with billions and billions of views, and also on Twitter, people posting it on Twitter as well. And at some point, it tips over from here's a fun little side thing to it goes beyond the sphere of people that actually get Wes Anderson to like it becomes like unrecognizable from what he was originally trying to be inspired by. That's kind of my answer. Jeff, did you have any opinion when you see these videos? Like, I'm guessing you've probably seen fewer of them than me.
Probably fewer. I spend less time on TikTok than you do, but I've definitely seen bunches of them. And I guess I don't have the negative reaction that you have. The fun of it is that Wes Anderson has such a particular view of the world that it's cool for the average person to say, hey, look, I can look at the world that way too. I can find those symmetries. I can look at my average daily life and go, oh, look, you can find that point of view in it if you look hard enough. I can I can interpret my world in the way this filmmaker does, and there's something gained from that. There's some interesting takeaway from attempting to view the world through the way this artist views or presents the world. And I think that's kind of cool. There is something evocative about it. I think it's the ultimate compliment to an artist who has such a particular sensibility that other people can say, hey, when I do that, it changes how I view my world. I think that's cool.
The uncharitable way I would look at it, which is obviously my favorite way of looking at things, is that Wes Anderson's style or worldview cannot be summed up to a bundle of aesthetics, right? Like,
of course it isn't.
It's the whole package of the aesthetics, the dialogue, what the story is trying to say, right? All these things combined, and so they're kind of taking a small slice of his worldview and bastardizing it. From what I understand about you, probably like if somebody was like, I'm going to try to DM like Jeff Kanata, and I'm going to use Jeff Kanata's rhetorical flourishes and but it was like not as good as Jeff Kanata or not as interesting. Like you'd probably be like, hey, that's cool that they tried to do that. Like that's contributing.
Honestly, that has happened a number of times. People have reached out to me and said, hey, A, can I set my campaign in your world? And B, hey, I've tried to model my approach on yours. And I find that to be incredibly flattering. I think that is the best compliment is like, hey, you've inspired me to try to, I look at what you're doing as an ideal in some way. And so I'm going to try to model my behavior after it. I can understand perhaps feeling like there's a form of mockery in what people are doing with Wes Anderson. Right. If I'm him, I can understand that there might be some mockery in that. Yeah. But what do they say? Imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, right? It's I don't know. Maybe I'm just a little more Pollyanna about it than you, but no one else has done that. It's hard to find any filmmaker that has, over many, many films, a more specific approach than he has. There are lots of filmmakers that are very specific in certain aspects, or it's more hard to put your finger on. But this is so him, and I think that there's something beautiful about that.
That was a clip from the Filmcast After Dark. To get access to the whole episode, go to patreon.com/filmpodcast. You can sign up for ad-free episodes as well as exclusive After Darks. You can find the regular podcast at thefilmcast.com, and of course, like and subscribe for more videos like this one. Thanks for watching.